Welcome to This Week in Local, a Localogy podcast featuring lively conversations about the local digital ecosystem, hosted by Localogy analysts Mike Boland and Charles Laughlin.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to This Week in Local. I'm Charles Laughlin, Senior Analyst with Localogy, joined by my colleague Mike Boland. Mike, how's it going?
Hey, Charlie. Going well.
Great. So what are you working on?
Sure. So I'm looking at a deal this week, or it didn't happen this week, but I'm looking at it this week, a recent deal between Shopify and Target. And what Shopify has done is teamed up with Target so that Shopify merchants can get additional amplification on Target.com, which is obviously a welcome sort of development for small merchants that may not be, adept at, SEO and traffic building. It just gives them a little bit more distribution. So this sort of there's sort of three pieces to this, right? There's the SMBs themselves, and I guess I just covered that. It's good for them. Then there's Shopify, why is Shopify doing it and why is Target doing it? So I'll take those one by one. So Shopify, essentially, this is a play at retention or just making its platform more attractive. If it can offer SMBs that benefit I just mentioned, which is, hey, as long as you're on the platform, you could end up on Target.com. It really helps them as sort of like a hook for the platform, both for acquisition and for retention. And that's key. And this is actually the second time Shopify has done this. They did something similar about 2 years ago, which we covered with Walmart.com to serve as sort of like another distribution outlet for all of its merchants. And that really is just sort of the carrot it's providing to attract more and more merchants to its platform. So that's why Shopify is doing it. For Target, that's another interesting part. Target's actually trying to beef up its third-party sort of seller program. So Amazon, as we all know, is sort of like the holy grail there. It has a very robust Amazon marketplace. They call it FBA, Fulfilled by Amazon, and it's just tons of different third-party sellers that just make up a large portion of its like network effect and just the volume of stuff on Amazon. There's actually 2 million merchants, to put a number on it. And if you compare that to Walmart, which has a similar sort of growing third-party network on Walmart.com, it has about 135,000. Now, Target's sort of equivalent program, which is known as Target Plus, currently has 1,200. So I'll say those numbers again. Amazon 2 million, Walmart 135,000, Target currently 1,200. So I think with this move, it's looking to beef that up a little bit. And if you look at those 1,200...
To avoid embarrassment if for no other reason, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And if you look at what Target has done there, it's like, it's lower quantity, but they're going for quality because it's this highly curated experience. A lot of those merchants are these sort of like known brands like Caden Lane and... Crocs, Maui Jim, and Timberland. Those are the few of the ones that Target has on that.
Whereas
program.
on Amazon, it's any Tom, Dick, or Harry or Jane.
Right.
Yeah.
So it seems like what Target is doing here is by opening the floodgates to Shopify merchants, letting a little more volume and less sort of like careful curation. But I think it's a revenue play for like a classic sort of long tail type of thing that Target's doing there. So that's sort of it in a nutshell.
So a few interesting things here. I mean, you kind of led with the part that struck me about this, which is that, someone is, and friends of mine have used Shopify in various degrees over the years. And the beef has always been, you got to invest in your own traffic building. There's no benefit. It's strictly a platform. It's not a network, really. And so they seem to be addressing that as they did with the Walmart thing. But I'm wondering, you mentioned retention, and I haven't really looked. It's probably discoverable somewhere. Is Shopify a high churn business, given sort of the nature of its clientele, which sort of seems to lend itself to high churn? People dabble in e-commerce and then they quit, even if they were getting a stream of traffic. And then they dabble in e-commerce. It's hard because it's Shopify and you have to do and it's like they've got great tools and features, but it's not a marketplace really. And so I'm wondering if they have a churn problem that they need to address.
Yeah, so two questions there. One is like the distribution and two is the churn. So I'll take those one at a time. So there's sort of two components to being on Shopify. One is the presence, and then that's followed by the promotion. So we got like 2 P's there. So presence
Mhm.
that's actually the part where a lot of merchants love it, right? Because it allows them to get up and running fast with the
Oh
transactional
yeah,
back end and the
absolutely.
product images, and it democratized what has traditionally been a sort of
Everything
closely
you need is
guarded.
in the platform. It's a
Yeah.
very good tool, in
Yeah,
that sense.
the sort of closely guarded functionality that has always previously been locked up by, like, retailers that can afford high-end developers. It
Mhm.
democratized that. Anyone can
Sure,
have a
sure.
store, right? So that part people love. That second part, you bring up a good point. Once you create that store, it's like if you build it, they will come. Like what's that second step? And that's what Shopify is doing with these deals, is giving them a little
Mhm.
more amplification and distribution. Now, to your point about, or your question about retention, I actually don't know the answer, but I would theorize it's a bit of a double-edged sword because, one, there's a
Mhm.
bit of a switching cost. Like, once you take the time to put all your product images up there and your pages and there's people aren't going to be like, oh, now I'm ditching Shopify for another platform. So I bet their retention's strong for that reason. But that might be counterbalanced with another thing you alluded to, which is, some of these under the radar, fly by night sort of smaller sellers
Yeah.
might sort of come and go easily.
Sort of
So
the
if
Etsy type sellers,
yeah. Yeah, right. So if
Yeah.
Shopify is losing them, it's losing them due to bankruptcy, not
I
due
think
to,
it's losing
hey,
them
we
because
don't
people
like the
give up. I think it's because people
yeah,
give up rather than I'm
right.
going to go over to
So it's an
WooCommerce or
abandoned
something. Yeah, yeah,
strategy versus
yeah.
hey, I'm shifting and going over to another platform.
Again, I don't know, and neither of us have pulled that data if it's even available. But my gut tells me it's more. I'll go do some other side hustle, and
Yeah. All right.
instead of WooCommerce has better distribution features or whatever. I'm not saying they
Exactly.
do. I
Yeah.
just hypothetically.
No, right. It's less of a competitive thing, more of
Yeah,
a, I'm done with this type of thing.
yeah, yeah, yeah. All right. So and from Target's standpoint, clearly they've got some ground to make up. It
Yeah.
looks like they're lagging. I mean, Amazon's Amazon, and we sort of said it's full of 2 million. I wouldn't call them all micro sellers, but a lot of micro
Yeah.
sellers among those 2 million. And
And the
so
other
they're way
benefit,
ahead of the game there.
yeah, and the
Uh,
other benefit for Target is that to build up that program, again, Amazon has all those that sort of came to Amazon one by one.
uh-huh.
This allows Target to sort of inflect that universe of third-party sellers in one fell swoop. It'll
Hmm.
probably do other things too. It'll continue to make deals
Yeah.
individually, or perhaps some other deals like this with other e-commerce platforms. But this is a nice sort of like, one handshake for Target that
Hmm.
gives it, a pretty large volume.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. That's interesting. One thing about Amazon is that, if you're one of these, what I call micro sellers, perhaps unfairly to many of them, um, as you're trying to sell things, a lot of brands put restrictions on, okay, you can't just resell a box of my stuff on Amazon.
Totally.
Yeah, there's a lot of that. And I'm wondering if, I imagine Target and Walmart also want to avoid just people kind of buying stuff in the physical store and reselling it on their, through their Shopify store on Walmart or Target or whatever. So I assume they're kind of going through the same process of not
Yeah,
having all
and
those
you bring up a
same
good point
restrictions.
that Target and Walmart actually face a challenge there that is greater than what Amazon faces, because sure, if you think about it feasibly, someone could go to Target,
Hmm.
buy a crate of any given product, and then resell it. I think there are probably natural disincentives to do that because they're paying retail and then
Margins.
selling at a
Yeah.
markup. Like usually when companies do that, I mean, the classic example is like a restaurant will go to Costco and pick
Yeah.
up a can of a crate of like Coke cans and then sell it for two
Yeah. And
bucks a
then they'll
pop
sell
in the
the
restaurant.
$4
Yeah,
Diet Coke, they
yeah,
spend 50 cents on. Yeah. Yeah.
because they're getting wholesale rates on one
Hmm.
end and then selling at retail. In this case, I
Hmm.
guess they have Target has less to worry about because they only sell at retail rates. And I guess
Hmm.
that then someone could go. I mean, there would be a lot of sort of market speculation involved in that reseller to be able to like buy something
I
that's
mean, I think the
rare or
Costco to the platform pipeline is more common. the warehouse stores where you at least think
there's
you're
just
getting wholesale prices.
there's less margin in buying something at Target, which is retail, and
No,
then selling
I think
online, which is
anyone
also
who's doing
retail.
that, they probably have figured out a couple products where that might work, if that even is the case.
Or
So
it's market
that's not a huge danger
speculation.
for them.
It's market speculation on like Beanie Babies or something like that, which is a whole different like ball of wax.
Right, which is Anyway, probably not their biggest problem, but Amazon or brands have figured out, partnering with Amazon, have figured out how to prevent, their stuff from popping up and basically having their prices undercut. I think that's why brands do that. They don't want to see something essentially new for 50% less on Amazon. So they say, no way, you just can't do it.
Yeah.
You can sell it on
And that
Facebook
happens
Marketplace if you want, but
that happens on Amazon whenever something is very rare or suddenly scarce. Like, for example, webcams at the beginning of the pandemic. People were reselling, Logitech webcams that retailed for $89 for like $400.
Masks for a while there.
Yeah, masks.
That was banned for other reasons, but
Yeah, Sriracha is another one recently. There's a huge Sriracha shortage for the Hoi Fung company, which is the one that makes the original Sriracha.
I'm confused by why there's a Sriracha shortage, but whatever.
Yeah, it's something to do with the peppers. I don't know.
Okay, I'm sure that's true. All right, Mike, do you want to end it there?
Sure. So thanks everyone for listening. This has been This Week in Local. Stay tuned every week for more episodes. You can find the show on all major podcast networks and find out more at Localogy.com. Please subscribe, like, and comment. Your engagement helps others find us. And if you're interested in being a guest or sponsor, you can email us at podcast@Localogy.com. So I'm Mike Boland with Charles Laughlin. Our producer is Dara Sweat. So thanks for listening and see you next time.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of Localogy's This Week in Local with Mike Boland and Charles Laughlin. Be sure to subscribe for more.